Hello to one and all present here. My name is Srishti Singhal. I am Assistant Professor of Law at IMT University, Meerut. Today, we are going to study further in the Constitution about its nature of the Constitution. So friends, in the last video, you have studied the preamble of the Constitution. The essence of the Constitution lies in the preamble. We studied different words which have been inserted in the preamble and different amendments, case laws, and it's actually what does it mean and what is the preamble. So in today's class, we are going to study about the nature of the Constitution. So let's start. So nature of Constitution. Can anybody can tell me what is nature of the Constitution? Yes, if you actually look at the nature of the Constitution, it itself, like what we have studied before, it lies in the preamble. When you look at the preamble, there are certain words which has been described. For example, equality, principles of equality, justice, then feelings of fraternity means brotherhood, then how India should be, it is a democratic country, it has the principles of republic that we have had in each and every state. So similarly, what is the nature of the Constitution? The nature, if I talk about, like if I ask you all are sitting together, each and every person has some unique qualities, yes or no, right? If I talk about nature of a particular person from you, that nature must be different from the other person's perspective as well, understood? So similarly, here we are talking about the nature of a Constitution and particularly of our own country, India. What kind of Constitution it is, what type of principles it has been ambiguated, whether is it unitary or federal, okay? Whenever we comprise about nature, two words hit our mind, either it's a unitary country or it has the principle of federal governance, okay? Because whenever we want to talk about the nature, we will look at the how the country functions. Naturally, with the working of the particular country, with the working of the people, principles, any establishment is known by the company it keeps. There is a saying, a man is known by the company he keeps. So similarly, like other countries, in different countries have different form of governments. Either it is unitary or federal. So we will learn today whether India is having the principles of unitary constitution or federal constitution. So let's start. Now, first we should know the meaning. Okay? Meaning. So what does this actually unitary means? Unitary means, like I'll read with you along, all the powers of the government is centralized in one government, that is central government. Then further, state government is subordinate to the center. So as I say, underline the word centralized in one government. Understood? Now let's see the meaning of federal constitution. It says there is a division of power between center and state government. Both are independent in their own spheres. Here, state is not subordinate to center. Now, are you able to understand the difference between the two? When it is unitary, by the term unitary, it is differentiating. Unitary means union. There is a one power which is being held by a single government. Okay, like it is said that all the powers of the government is centralized in one government. For example, when a circle is there, okay, centrifugal force, if I talk about scientifically, then your centrifugal force lies in the center, understood? All the forces and all, it lies here. So this is what? This is center. It is an example of a centralized government, means unitary government. And here when state government is there, then state government will be subordinate to the center and state will be the sole government to handle the country. Basically all the power lies in with the center or the union. But whenever we talk about federal constitution, it is a kind of constitution where there is a division of power. See, here it was union of power, union of power, and here it is division of power between center and state government. Both are independent in their own spheres. Here state is not subordinate, which means when there is a division, there are different parts of the circles. Same example I am giving here. There is different parts, division of the part. Then here each part is independent on its own. Okay. Here each part is independent of its own. Each part is considered independent, supreme on its own. Okay, there is no kind of centralized that all the power lies in the centralized authority in the one lies with the one government. It has division of power and each part is independent to each other. But when we talk about unitary constitution means when the powers of a whole part or whole country, okay, it is centralized to one government. It is union of power, or here it is division of power. Okay, division of power. Are you able to understand? Right? Clear? So now let's move further. So basically now we are now stepped into the shoes, and now we have known the meaning also of unitary and federal. Now basically we are studying about Indian constitution, whether it is unitary or federal. So there are different opinions by different jurists. One of the opinion was by K.C. Ware. He said that India is quasi-federal, that is similar to a federal system, because it has some features of federal and some of the unitary constitution. However, according to the makers of the constitution, it is federal. Even Dr. B.R. Ambedkar defined it as a federal constitution, although center has certain powers to override the provinces. Then the question of whether India constitution could be actually called a federal constitution could not be answered without looking into the meaning of federalism and the essential features that are evident in a federal state. So now students, I hope you are getting a picture that Indian constitution is what, okay? Then because different opinions say different things, okay? Some says that it is federal, some says it is unitary, and some even says that it is quasi-federal. Quasi means partly, okay? Partially. Partially, okay? Half, not full, not full, not fully, but partially it is seen federal. So what according to you, if you take the picture of our own country India, is it federal or unitary? See, according to their opinions, it seems that yes, when we read the definition of K.C. Ware, we consider that it should be quasi-federal. When we talk about our own father of the constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, then we consider that no, constitution although has the center to has certain powers to override the provinces. For example, if we talk about India, there is division of powers is also there, but there is a center also. So what is right? We will read this in further slides. So let's start. Now it's a question to all of you that whether India is having the constitution of federal in nature or unitary in nature. See, till now we have learnt major aspects. We have studied what preamble is, we have studied the nature and its objectives. You have also known the meaning of unitary. Right now we studied the meaning of unitary as well as federal. Unitary was when it is union of powers, and federal was, yes, right, it is division of powers. Very good. Okay. So, there are certain features which are essential to be present in federal constitution. We studied in our previous slide also that to know whether the country is federal or unitary, we should also foresee some of its feature also. So, to say that India is federal or India is unitary, like we studied the previous definitions at the back, okay. We studied here that some of the jurists says that the father of constitution say that it is having a federal constitution, it's quasi-federal. So, it is not complete or not apt to say that yes, it is according to them, it is federal or quasi-federal, because what essential is we should know some of the features which are essential to be present in federal constitution. So, let us start. Now, first federal principle. So, basic principle of federalism is what? Are you able to see? It's division of power. Division of power, the center and the state are not subordinate but coordinate with each other. They work independently in their own sphere. In words, it seeks to bring unity in diversity and the achievement of common national goals. Prevention as well as the settlement of conflict of interest of the center and the states is an important part of federalism. This is the reason why the Indian federalism was devised with a strong center. The Indian constitution has adopted federal features, though it is not a complete federal nation. So, now you got the idea of what is federal principle. It says federal basic principle is that there should be division of power. If I talk about the meaning of federalism, it means country with federation. Federation means division of power. Division of power. That's why it's an essential function. Then further, very important, it is written that state and center, when it is bifurcated, that state has its own function, center is its own function. So, they both are not subordinate to each other, like we studied before, that when it is federal, it has division of power and then their state is not subordinate. But when unitary is there, all the powers are lying in the center. Here state is subordinate. Didn't we study in unitary? Okay, in unitary we studied that there is a majority of the powers in one government and state will be subordinate. But when we studied about federal principle or federal government, there we see that there is a division of power and each part is independent, but in what? In federal, okay, in federal government. So, here it is trying to say that when we talk about center and state, they both are not subordinate, but they work in coordination. Naturally, when two people are there, head is there, principal is there, vice principal is there, president is there, then vice president is there, prime ministers are there, council of ministers, governors, local municipalities at on state level. They are working for the upliftment of the people of country only. So, they are not inferior to each other, but they are in coordination. nation. Okay. So, now further we will look some of the principles. So, some essential characteristics of a federal constitution, they are none other than first is, are you able to see? First is supremacy of law, then second, yes you can say along, distribution of power, written constitution, rigidity, authority of courts. These are some of the basic and important essential characteristics which are necessary to be found in federal constitution, right? Like we see different countries who are federal in nature, because when we studied the definition, we found an example of USA, United States of America, right? So, this is America, comprises of different states, okay? United States of America, if you talk about, each state has its own country, has own power. Each power has the potential to form own country only, okay? So, if you count, they are 15 number. Total parts or division of these states in America is 50, and they have been added with time. So, 51, and you can see about the latest picture of the America, but as per my record it is 51, okay. Then these all states are independent, and here it is considered that they have federal constitution. Understood? So, now we will study that what essential features are there which are considered to be under the category of federal constitution, okay. Now, let us begin with one of the each characteristics, okay. First is supremacy of law. So, can you tell me what is supremacy of law? Yes, you are actually right. When it is law, okay, whenever it is law, then there is always it is said that law is supreme. No one is above law, law is above all. So, supremacy of law, naturally, even before judging the nature of the constitution, it is to be judged that whether law is present or not. Any part, any continent, any state without law and order cannot be adjudged as a proper civilized or organized country or a state, because law and order should always be focused in supreme. Understood? Why? To avoid arbitrariness, understood? To avoid any kind of unjustness, arbitrariness, partiality, biasness, discrimination from the society, law and order is above all, okay. So, I will read with you along. The constitution is the supreme law. The term law involves rules, regulations, bylaws, notifications, orders, ordinances, and even the customs having a force of law. A federal state derives its existence from the constitution. Every type of power, be it legislative, administrative or judicial, irrespective of it being at the center or the state level, is controlled by or is subordinated to constitution. Even Article 13 Clause 2 provides that the state shall not make any law which takes away any of the rights guaranteed under Part 3rd of the Constitution, and to the extent of such contravention, the law is considered to be void. So, here you have noted a very important point, which is about supremacy of law. It said that federal states derives its existence from the constitution. So, to know whenever the state is federal or it's unitary, its existence, it's from constitution, okay. Naturally, federal state derives because law and order should be in consonance to the constitution of any country. And here we are talking majorly about our own country, India. Here law, order and it's supreme. So even in our Article 13 clause 2, it has said that even if any law and order is made, but it is not following the principles of constitution, so it is considered void. So we have the principle of supremacy of law, which is necessary to be under the ambit of a federal nature government. So we have passed one criteria. Now let's move further. So it says distribution of power. So distribution of power is, if I talk about, like we studied about center and state. Okay. Like we say that state and other bodies will coordinate with each other. Okay. So if I try to explain you, whenever there is an emergency, okay, in whole country, then state is there to regulate its own power and functions. And when it's a matter of a local body like state of UP, state of Rajasthan, state of Maharashtra, okay, Gujarat, Haryana, all other states will comprise under the local bodies. Then in that case, the authorities present at the state level will take the action. Okay, naturally you have already studied in preamble that our country is what? A country is republic. Each and every country, each and every part has a head, has authority present. So local matter will be looked by the local authority. Then naturally if it is a central level matter, central action is needed, so it will be looked by the central authority. Understood? So there is a distribution of power. Yes? So you will be able to connect that there is a distribution of power. There are different case laws, different examples also of emergency, yes, or even if a state problem is there, for example, the road and services is to be maintained in a particular state. So naturally it has been handed over to the particular authority. When it's a matter of emergency, then state takes action, state emergency, okay, then national emergency is there. Understood? So different circumstances will take different actions. So it's written this only, that in federalism distribution of power forms an important and integral part. Distribution of power between the center and the state and other coordinate bodies present in the constitution. This division of government powers into national and regional governments is done by way of 3 lists which are being present: union list, state list and the concurrent lists. Each list, if you see, have different subjects, okay, like agriculture is there, education is there, okay, mining is there, okay, different aspects are accordingly divided. That the matters which are in the handed over to the state are listed here. In union, different lists are there. Concurrent list, mixture of both are there. For example, education, it's a matter which is needed in the state also, in the union also. So we have put education here. Similarly, agriculture. Understood? Like this, there is a distribution of the power. Now let's move further. So third category, we have passed first 2 category, that was supremacy of law, distribution of power, and third pass gate is written constitution. So do we have written constitution? Yes, fast, quick. Yes, very good. Like lastly we have studied that Indian constitution is the bulkiest and the largest constitution in the world. Understood? And so there is codified constitution. A federal constitution must be written, since the federal nature of the constitution involves a lot of contracts, hence it would be impractical not to have these written. Moreover, to maintain the supremacy of the constitution, it is imperative to have a written constitution. Like you have studied in the previous slide about supremacy of law. Okay, law is there. So when law is an essential part, how can you not include the codification of law when law is such an important part? Understood? So each and everything which is essential is in codified form, and it's the matter of law and order. So how can we ignore such an important matter and to govern a country without such codification? So yes, we have our own constitution which is written and is codified. Okay. So but if we see different perspective, different countries have different pictures. Some have written constitution, some do not have, but our India is having this principles as well. We have our written constitution, and you should know that it took almost 2 years, 18 days and 11 months to build whole constitution. Such vast it was. 2 years, 18 days and 11 months. Okay. So one of the example is here. The United Kingdom does not have a written constitution, and therefore it is not regarded as a federal country. Okay. The state in a federal system come together and enter into a treaty, and the terms of a treaty are required to be in writing in the form of a written constitution. Further, there is no denial of the fact that a written constitution brings stability in the overall governance of the country. If there were no written constitution defining the scope of the powers of the center and the states, there will be chaos and confusion. So when, like we have stated earlier, you know the history also, like there were different rules were there, different shackles of slavery we have already observed. So because why? Because we didn't have our own rule book, our own government structure, and now soonest we have a written constitution, so we are independent. Understood? We are independent, and so is an essential feature to be under the ambit of a federal constitution. So we have in turn passed this gate also of written constitution. Now let's see further. Rigidity. What is rigidity? Can you explain me, Normal, what is rigidity? Yes, something which is tight, which is rigid, which is not, you know, easily taking apart. It is not flexible. It is very rigid, very hard. So does our Indian constitution is rigid? So let's see that the constitution should be rigid and permanent. A lousy set of document cannot be set to a federal constitution. The method of the amendment should be rigid, otherwise the basic principles of the constitution would be under threat. However, the rigidness of the constitution should not be confused with inflexibility. The constitution is an organic document and should be flexible enough to accommodate according to the changing times. Very important. Accommodate according to the changing time. So students, you have already understood in our previous video that like we discussed partially about amendments. Like we studied the amendment in preamble. Okay, some words have been added. You can see that video also, so that this video is more clear. Like we studied about amendments. So there is a procedure of change in any law and order. You cannot do so that today you are with the law and tomorrow you said that you say that no, this law is not according to my terms and conditions. So this should not be done. Okay, there is a particular process which has to be followed. Even to form a law, there has a ample of process. So similarly, if we talk about India, there are different provisions like Article 368 is there, okay, for amendments, right. So it is, when we term about rigidity, is it enough to be under the ambit of rigidity? So yes, we have certain process, we have certain procedure to take amendment into our into consideration. If there was no article, suppose there was no article present, then lot of amendment would have taken place each day. Some of the society would have agreed to the particular law, some of the society would have disagreed, okay. Some of the society would have said that no, they need time to understand the same thing. Understood? But now what the government has done, what our constitution has, we have certain provisions. So this is one. There are other aspects also, like it is seen that it should be flexible enough to accommodate according to the changing time. So what was not just before, maybe just now, okay, like the principles of adultery was a crime before, but now it is decriminalized according to terms and conditions, okay. So this is one of the principles. So we are partly rigid, partly flexible. We are, means if there is seriousness in the amendment, it is likely to take place. If there is no such kind of reason to take the amendment, then amendment is not taken place. Then further, the last essential for being under the ambit of a federal constitution is authority of courts. So do you see courts, court system and all, authority of courts? Even before to see the authority of courts, I think each and every person, whatsoever region you belong to a particular country, you have seen courts, right? So you all students must be from different regions, south, east, west, north. There are different courts at different levels. For example, there are local courts also, okay, local courts, district courts, okay, it is also known by the name Kacheri, then high courts, okay. Then further, one in a country is, yes, fast, name them, the Supreme Court. Oh, I already said it is a Supreme Court. It is the highest court, the apex body in the country, the Supreme Court. So we have the authority of the courts, okay. We have the authority of the courts and Supreme Court. So it's written, the judiciary has the final authority to interpret the constitution. The rationale for this provision is that only an independent tribunal which is authorized to resolve disputes between center and states could impartially resolve all the disputes between the center and the state government. As regards to India, the Supreme Court is that federal tribunal which has such powers and competency. The Supreme Court is authorized to exercise such power by way of Article 131 of the Constitution. However, for solving the interstate water disputes, the Parliament has to create an ad hoc tribunal to resolve a specific water dispute between two states. For example, some examples are given, Kaveri water disputes, okay. Then others are also there, the disputes between, you know, different case are there in which an action is taken by the Supreme Court. You can read about it. Then further, if we talk about Supreme Court and High Court, apart from this article, there are different articles also as well. Apart from this article, there are different articles as well, like Article 32, then Article, yes, can you name? It's Article 226. Under the authority of Article 32, you can go to Supreme Court, and under Article 226, you can approach High Court for the matter, okay. Then these are other articles in which you can exercise power according to the circumstances, but yes, you can approach High Court, Supreme Court and your local courts if there is any problem. So we have the final element, authority of courts as well, to be under the ambit of a federal constitution. So students, my question to you all, We have studied all the essential characteristics of a federal constitution. We have studied what supremacy of law is. Yes, we have studied here what do we mean by supremacy of the law, what are rules, regulations, bylaws, notifications are there, you know. Each and every society is organized. Then further we studied distribution of power. Here we got to learn that there is a distribution of power between the center and the states. We have our own governor, our own municipalities, our local authorities to look at the matter of the local, if local matter is there, then local authorities will take action. If it's a matter of center or union importance, then central will take action. Then further there are different lists according to which the government will work, okay, because it's a big country, you know, India is a diverse country, different kind of, you know, things are there, people are diverse in nature, there are different, above 100 languages are there, okay, then naturally different subjects, innovative minds, you people are so creative, innovative, different things are there, technologies has to be advanced. So we have categorized different subjects according to different circumstances in each state, okay, union list and state list, and then mixture is in concurrent list. Then these are accordingly distributed. Further we studied about written constitution. So yes, our Indian constitution is written and we are independent. Fourth, we studied about rigidity, that is our Indian constitution rigid. So yes, we studied that we have certain procedure which tells or which gives us such an impact that we are rigid in nature. We are not totally flexible, understood? We are not totally like there is no process only, okay? There is a certain kind of rigidity, all right? Understood? So, but that flexibility should be according to the changing times. It's not should be like that, that it is too rigid, that it will never take the amendment. It will never, you know, apply and change it. It is so rigid. We are not like this. Our country is having such flexibility that according to the time it will change. And examples, you know that different examples have taken place in the moving of the time. For example, Sati Pratha, you know, child marriages that were once a time, it was cherished. It was taken place very prominently, but now it has been abolished. So we are rigid but not too flexible. Last parameter, authority of courts. You have answered very well that yes, we have different courts at different levels, Supreme Court as highest authority. So now, can you able to say that India is federal? So yes, technically looking into the features and the essential of the federal constitution, looking into all the features, parameters and even the meaning and the intro part what we have studied, each and every essential was present. So technically we can say yes, we are federal in nature, but can we say completely that we are not unitary in nature? Yes. So like we have studied, is it federal or unitary? Okay, you have studied all the essential features as well. So now it's time to take the step that are we federal or unitary. So as you have studied with me along, the Indian Constitution empowers the center to interfere in the state matter and thus places the state in a subordinate position which involves the federal principles. Understood? Therefore, Indian Constitution is neither purely federal nor purely unitary, but a combination of both. It's a quasi-federal constitution, that is unitary with federal features or federal with unitary features. D.D. Basu conclusion on this point is that the constitutional system of India is basically federal, but of course with striking unitary features. Understood? So today we have studied the essential features of federalism. Okay? So it's very apt to say that we are federal in nature because we have each and every essential present, but is it appropriate to say that we are not unitary in nature fully, because because we have each and every essential of federalism in our constitution. So to know this, please watch the next upcoming video where we will discuss that certain provisions in which some federal principles are not present. Okay, principles are not present. So to say that we are neither purely federal nor purely unitary, we will have to go that what are such principles which are not considered federal in our constitution. Okay, some of you know that, some of you may not be knowing, so we will cover in our next part also. Okay, but in crux it is right that we are quasi-federal, we are neither federal nor unitary, we are mixture of combination of both. So today I hope this picture is clear with you. We have studied all the essential points with you, and in the next class, in the next we will meet with our fresh and the topic that whether what federal principles are not present in our constitution. So to know better, please watch the next upcoming video where we will discuss this. Till now, I hope everything is clear. Thank you all. Please take care.